Hi guys. I just watched The Vampire Diaries for the very first time. I'm obsessed and I'm here to talk about it. If there is one thing I love, it is watching a teen drama 15 years after it originally aired. The Vampire Diaries is no exception. I feel like it goes without saying, but this will obviously contain a lot of spoilers, so hopefully if you are watching this video, you either have seen the show or don't care. But yeah, I think falling in love with this show and this world was the highlight of my year. Well, this and Wicked and the Tortured Poets Department, all things that made me cry a lot. I hope you guys like my Elena Gilbert cosplay today. It is about 40 degrees in Melbourne, so I am dying, but when I found this like Henley on ThreadUp, I had to do it. So I am not a fantasy girly. I've always struggled with like world building and things that aren't based in reality. So the Vampire Diaries to me, I've always been like, looks cool, but just not for me. It's not my thing. Cut to now, I am ready to book a flight to Covington, Georgia and go to any convention. I mean, I bought Elena's necklace for crying out loud. Like when I love something, I love it. So today I'm going to share all of my thoughts that I had throughout watching the show. I also filmed some moments and like reactions and thoughts that I had whilst watching it, and stay tuned to the end for me to share things that I didn't necessarily love about the show. I am nervous to share that because I feel like this is a very opinionated fandom, but we'll get there when we get there. And if you guys would like me to make a tier ranking of every single character in the show, give this video a like to let me know, because those are my favorite to make and I have a lot to say. So if you're keen, let me know. I was always going to end up watching this show. Like there was an invisible string in my life leading me to The Vampire Diaries. I mean, first of all, I love a show about two brothers. Hello. But my two favorite movies of all time, The Parent Trap and the Hannah Montana movie. Who was in those two films? Miss Bonnie Bennett and Miss Caroline Forbes. So it just makes sense. Now, let me start out by saying how much FOMO I have that I didn't get to experience the fandom and just watching this show live when it was airing. Being a part of the culture of something so phenomenal, it's just so fun. We're all fangirls here. You guys know what I mean by that. But I don't know what I was watching at the time that this came out. Obviously, I was just wasting my time, but I missed out on any like behind the scenes stuff and cast drama, predictions or reactions to things happening in real time. Oh my God, the Tumblr blogs I would have followed. Since I started the show, all I wanted to do was watch edits, cast interviews, behind the scenes moments, but I forced myself not to, so now I can. How exciting is that? And speaking of FOMO, this show made me wish I lived in like a really small town in America. Obviously Gilmore Girls did that with Stars Hollow, but things like Founders Day events and decade dances, that is so up my alley. So if anyone out there lives in like a small town America, is that a real thing?
Whoa, wait, hide your cast. It's not era appropriate.
Seriously?
And if so, I guess, do they have equally as racist of a history? I suppose they must. Again, I thought my whole life that I hated fantasy stuff, and somehow I was hooked by the world building and the lore of this show quicker than anything else. Things like compulsions, vervain, the manner in which people are transformed into a vampire. I loved it. It was so well done. Honestly, it did take me a good full season to remember like the recipe for becoming a vampire, because in Twilight, and I think most other vampire media, it's just you get bit and then you're a vampire. That's kind of all there is to it. So here I was like, okay, do they have blood in their system? They've died. They have to feed it within 24 hours. Like it's a whole thing, which I think makes it a lot better. First question of the video, if you guys died with vampire blood in your system, would you turn? Would you choose to turn? I think I would as a no-brainer, because I'm like, if I want to die, I can still choose that later on. But if I die now, it takes the option away. So to me, I'm like, obviously, yes. I could never understand when people chose not to, but that's them. I also love that it wasn't like agonizing to turn into a vampire in this show like it is in Twilight. RIP to the werewolves, I guess. They really got the raw end of the deal, especially compared to the Twilight werewolves. Like so much better for Jacob and his crew.
It hurts. It hurts.
Stranger things happen every day. Trust me.
How is that fair?
Most of all, I really, really like and respect that within the Vampire Diaries universe, older vampires are stronger and more powerful. Sorry, this is the last time I'll bring up Twilight. It's just the comparisons I had. It never sat right with me that newborns were like stronger or more powerful. It makes so much more sense to do it this way. So I'm like, I already respect you off the bat more, because the logic that you're laying out for this world makes more sense to me. So thank you. I guess what I'm trying to say is I just really loved the world building, and I believed it, to the point where when they brought in when they brought in the sun and the moon curse, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Now, with most teen dramas, I can see storylines and plots coming from a mile away because I've seen so many of them. I, studied media. It's actually nothing to do with that. I think I wanted to sound more credible. It is solely the amount of television that I've watched. It's formulaic. You know the things that are going to happen, and hopefully that is a good thing. Like, if you can follow the characters' needs and desires and wants, and you should be able to figure out what's happening. So for me, that was the same with like the Vampire Diaries. You can tell who's going to fall in love, who's going to kiss, who's going to XYZ. However, the magic storylines gagged me every single time. Constantly. I was constantly shocked. And I think because I was binging in such quick succession, like watching 5 or 6 episodes at a time and then a break for a week and then 5 or 6 at a time. Shout out to my cousin who watched this with me. She is a lifelong Vampire Diaries fan. She had a Stefan pillow on her bed. So I always knew of the show, and finally I let her make me obsessed. But yeah, because we were watching it so quickly like that rather than week to week over 8 years, I didn't really have time for the magic storylines to sink in my brain to the point where I could like predict them. Honestly, I don't know. You guys let me know how it was for you watching it. But yeah, for the most part, things that were magic related storylines would always catch me off guard. So for a girl as smart as me, when it comes to TV shows, that was really enjoyable. For any of you that watched the show as it was airing live, I would love to know what were the things that like had you falling off the couch. What surprised you the most? What shocked you? What scared you? Which season finale was the biggest cliffhanger? Because for me, I would just press play on the next episode right away. What were the craziest episodes either for you or like in the culture at the time? If you were in the zeitgeist of message boards or Tumblr blogs, what really gagged everyone, Also, do Vampire Diaries fans have names? Let me know, because I am one now. So, okay, I have a few questions here. Number 1, did Nina Dobrev get paid double for playing 2 main characters? Because Elena and Katherine, that is the equivalent of hiring 2 actors to play 2 roles. So in my mind, that equals 2 salaries. Very deserved if she did. Honestly, incredible. Stefan was 171 years old, I think. I could be wrong. The show had 171 episodes. We start the show when Stefan comes to Mystic Falls, and we end the show, spoiler alert, when he dies. That had to be intentional, right? It almost bookends. It is the 2 bookends of Stefan's life, almost. Not really, but it's just interesting when you think about that, because obviously Elena is our protagonist, but ultimately it's also a story of brotherhood. So does this make Stefan our protagonist? Let me know. Question 3, why is any season 3, 3rd season of a teen drama the best one? We have The Vampire Diaries, One Tree Hill, The OC. I'm sure there are more. Also, you guys know my tastes. Let me know what show I should watch after this. Obviously nothing recent, but I think my options are things like Teen Wolf, Buffy, I'm trying to think what else I missed, Smallville, anything that was made 10 or more years ago. Did anyone else not know that vervain is a real plant? I thought that was made up, like reindeer. Both real. Oh, okay. How did everyone feel about the ending of the show? I will obviously get to my thoughts on that as we get there, but what was everyone's response at the time? Also, what was everyone's response to Nina Dobrev leaving? Did her Instagram post announcing that she was leaving the show spoil that for people? Because not to criticize Nina, all love to her for leaving the show, I think I totally respect that, but I would have posted the Instagram story after the finale aired. I know you want the viewership, so you're like, oh, it's my last episode, tune in. But imagine going into that not knowing it was her last episode, which was actually how I experienced it. I watched it and I was like, as if, and my cousin who I was watching with was like, yeah, she doesn't come back. That's it. It was great for me. Was there any cast drama or fun stories? I feel like that is one of the most fun parts of like loving a show and being invested in any kind of media. So let me know what I missed. And the final question I have is, were the creators of this show just a little bit racist? Because at times it really seemed like it. Okay, let's get into my thoughts. So, I'm so glad they ditched the crow and the fog thing. Rewatching the pilot and the first few episodes is so funny because it just has a very different tone to the rest of the show. I think it was coming off the tail end of the Twilight pandemonium. So I think they were going for like a more darker, moodier, sexier vibe, which it still is, but I don't know, it was like a bit more gothic. And then I think we leaned into more of the fun comedy elements later on. This note I feel very strongly about too. It pissed me off how cavalier people were with their vervain jewelry, their daylight rings, and like their Gilbert rings. They would always be like, oh, this is how I do it. I got this whole thing. I would not tell a soul if I had any of these magical protective talismans. I would have a hidden toe ring on, a belly button. Oh, no, maybe not a belly button piercing, because imagine if it got yanked out. Oh, you know those like chains, body chains people wear to festivals? That, and it has vervain in it. I'm drinking it in my coffee every morning. I'd smoke it. I would chew it. I would chew it like people chewing tobacco. Like that's in my system all day, every day. I just think there were some sloppy times when they needed to either shut up about it or be more cautious. Now, this is a very interesting note. Caroline and Tyler having sex for the first time to Ron Pope's A Drop in the Ocean is one of the best things I've ever seen. That's funny because I know that in that same scene with the same needle drop is when Stefan and Elena are having like a very serious emotional phone call. But when I hear that song, I don't think about that scene. I think about Caroline and Tyler having, what do they call it? Hot hybrid vampire sex.
I stand in the desert. She walks by.
Good for those guys. I guess this is another question. Why does Caroline never bring up Damon abusing her? She talks a lot about not approving of Damon for Elena, which fair enough, you can say if you think your friend deserves better, but she never uses the fact that he controlled her, abused her as the reasoning for why. And like, I know why this is. It's because if the writers brought that up, they wouldn't be able to redeem Damon. They couldn't walk themselves back from that because technically Caroline would be right. The same as if Caroline kept reminding Elena that, hey, Damon killed your brother. But it just felt very out of character for a best friend who was also trying to convince Elena not to date him to just never bring that up.
Oh my God, Caroline, what happened?
Nothing, okay?
That is not nothing. Did somebody hurt you?
No, okay, nothing.
Did Damon hurt you?
No, of course not. I remember how you manipulated me. You pushed me around, abused me.
And yeah, I guess it felt out of character for someone who was trying so hard to not say, hey, you're my best friend, and it's kind of shitty that you're dating the guy that like sexually assaulted me like for weeks on end, and I don't think ever apologized for it. Just popping in here because my audio cut out for a few seconds, so I'm back now at nighttime to just pop those things in here. So to me, one of the biggest wastes of the entire show was not making Caroline Forbes a Swiftie. You cannot tell me that this girl would not have been Taylor Swift obsessed. And like, they mentioned her a couple times, so the show was aware of Taylor. I think they should have gone further. For the amount of times they had Candace sing on the show, one of them should have been White Horse. I said what I said. Let me know any other songs that you think she should have sang. Something that is so funny now looking back is that I thought Elena was going to be human the entire show. Like, I really thought this show is about these two vampires, Stefan and Damon, and how they weave through these humans' lives. Boy, was I wrong. And I was also surprised by how fast Caroline turned, and pleasantly surprised with how well she handled it. It made me think about how I would handle becoming a vampire. I don't think well, at least not as well as Caroline, because she's very type A, very organized, control freak. She said it, not me. I'm very type B. If we're speaking in terms of Mary-Kate and Ashley films, I'm always the Mary-Kate. Who would we categorize as the Mary-Kate of the Vampire Diaries universe? Vicky Donovan? Vicky is kind of giving Roxy from New York Minute, just like a bit all over the place. And like, if we're being honest, Roxy was absolutely smoking weed. We just didn't see it. Anyway, so I really liked the Augustine storyline. I just wish we had done a little bit more to do with Elena's dad and like the implications of her finding out that her dad kind of sucked, like every other dad in Mystic Falls. I was gonna say Rosewood. That was like that was a Freudian slip, because every dad in Rosewood, bar Wayne Fields, also kind of sucks. I was gonna say, does Byron suck? He literally had an affair with his student. Anyway, yeah, I just think it would have been interesting to see the fallout from that, and Elena dealing with this new idea of like who she thought her dad was, her adoptive dad anyway, versus who he actually was, because we have to assume the reason Elena had always wanted to become a doctor was because her dad was, and like that was really inspiring. He helped people. Turns out he was also kind of hurting them too. So I would have loved to have seen more of a journey of that from her. Maybe the writers thought, look, she's suffered enough. Hold on. Another question I have was Silas. Loved him. So fun. I felt like Paul Wesley really enjoyed playing that role. And I just love watching actors do a role that you can tell they're really having fun with. But timeline-wise, Silas was from like 2,000 years ago, right? Ancient Greece. How or why was his tomb in Nova Scotia? That might have a really obvious answer that I just totally missed, which, you know, like I said, I was watching it in such quick succession. Maybe I missed that. But how did it end up there? And also, why did he come out of the tomb instantly adapted to, let's say, 2015 life? He's old. He should have been surprised by cars. Even Cole and Finn, I can't remember how long they were daggered for now, but like, shouldn't they have been confused by women wearing pants? I felt like everyone that came into the modern day world didn't have any culture shock. You know, I'm kind of thinking of like the James Marsden in Enchanted, trying to adapt to this strange new world. Maybe they thought that was too played out, but I would have loved to have seen it. I feel like Kai had a little joke about Uber, which I loved. I would have loved to have seen more of that. On that note, it's interesting to think about like Stefan and Damon, the time that they were from, and the father that raised them, let's just say that. It wouldn't be surprising if they had kind of old school values. Maybe because they were awake this whole time and like alive, they had time to adapt with the culture. But characters that were dead or daggered or in a prison world and not within culture adapting to things. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I want them to be racist or sexist. Like when Julian came out of the prison world, was Bonnie the first black person he ever saw? I mean, he wasn't racist, he was just like an asshole. So I think the show did what like Twilight and other things try to do, where they like don't acknowledge. I mean, I only caught recently, I was like, was Emily Catherine's slave? I know they called her a handmaiden, but this was the antebellum South. Anyway, I'm getting too bogged down. There are just things that I feel like I didn't pick up on with the time period, and I think the show didn't want me to for that reason. One of the biggest slays to me was Caroline killing Luke so that Liv would be forced to help them and get everyone back from the other side.
Your brother's officially on the other side. Think you can risk it now?
Oh my gosh, that was fun. I think we get desensitized to neck snaps on the show because of how often they happen. But the fact that Luke wasn't immortal and like wouldn't just instantly wake back up from that. But equally something that pissed me off, Elena getting into the car to drive into the grill for it to explode when she didn't need to. She just wanted to like be there for the fun. Added to the body count of people that had to pass through Bonnie, which weakened her and eventually killed her, right? There was only so many people that she could let back through. And Lexi, we could have had Lexi come through had Elena not needed to sit shotgun. Like, what was that for? What was that for? And Lexi sacrificed coming back because of the like amount of people that couldn't go through anymore. Elena would have made it one less person, one less strain on Bonnie, and I don't think they ever talked about that, which makes me doubt myself and think like, is that right? But I think it is correct. I think she really messed up there. I really loved the Thanksgiving episode at Whitmore when Luke and Liv are like figuring out that they're related to Joe. Everyone by this point is kind of supernatural, so we forget that, literally, what is his name? Liam. We forget that Liam is there. And so they're talking about coven. And Liam's like, did you just say coven? And Tyler's like, no, we said oven.
2 sets of twins in your family?
Yeah, there were. Until my coven put Kai in a prison world.
I'm sorry, did you say coven?
Liam.
I think he meant oven.
Oh my god, I laughed out loud. That was so funny because as a viewer, like I almost forgot as well that not everyone is in this world with us yet. And you're like, oh fuck, Liam, you're here. One thing that confused me is how Enzo just had it out for Stefan and was like, oh, I have to get revenge on Stefan because he killed me. But he didn't though. Stefan had his hand in Enzo's chest as a threat. Enzo purposefully pulled away. He pulled out, killing himself on purpose to be like, well, like, what are you going to do now? And then spends the next half season trying to get revenge for that. But you did that. Like, that was you.
Have fun sorting this out with your brother.
Again, I don't know if I missed something there, but I'm like, Enzo, like, you literally did that. You did that to make a point. You can't use that now as ammunition. Also, the fact that Enzo was constantly mad at Stefan for the fact that, like, everyone else forgives him for coming back. It's giving Peyton in season 2 of One Tree Hill. Season 2? Season 3, when Haley comes back after being on tour with Chris Keller and is all like, well, people always leave. And it's like, Peyton, this is not about you. Like, you don't need to be upset. Let Haley and Nathan work that out and let Stefan and Damon work this out, Enzo. you don't need to concern yourself. It's all good. I do feel bad for him though. He just wanted to be loved. Oh my God. Again, Elena being side to Damon gagged me. Did not see it coming. If you watched my Instagram story highlights of when I was watching the show, I think I picked it just in time, like just before Caroline figured it out. I was like, oh, she's side.
I was trying to understand why Klaus was so intrigued by Damon and Elena.
What are you talking about?
Think about it. Every time Elena's had a problem, Damon's been the magic solution.
Is she side? And I was so excited because it's such a great storyline, like such a great twist. Stefan and Caroline were such a great little brains trust. Like them as a duo were always figuring shit out. They were kind of giving, I was going to say Spencer and Arya, but Arya wasn't really the one figuring shit out. Spencer and Toby? In terms of the Delena storyline, that then made it harder to ship them at that time, because it's like knowing that this deep connection came from a time when she was like not of sound mind or like consenting to her feelings. Obviously they then have him die, her forget the memories, her become human and get them all back, but like have fallen in love organically. So it kind of undoes that. And I think again that was probably intentional, because they were like, well, we can't have them end up together this way because then it's not like real. So very smart work there with the writers. I also feel like they said that doppelgangers are like soulmates fated to end up together, and then that never happened. Was that something like the sun and the moon curse that just wasn't true? And if it were true, would that mean that Elena, her soulmate, would be Tom, and Stefan would be Katherine, and Silas would be Amara? If you guys were in a group of supernatural friends like Matt finds himself, would you just ask your friends to turn you? Because I had that thought so many times watching the show. Anytime he's endangered or just like struggling to get by because he has to like, he's still serving fries at the grill, I would be like, guys, just turn me. Like, what am I doing this for? Everyone I love is either dead and gone or a vampire. So like, I would just want to join in on the fun. I feel like life is so hard. Let's just say that already. Life is so hard. For Matt especially, no parental figures. His sister's dead. I mean, I know he kind of like hates vampires more towards the end, but during those middle years, I'm like, I would just be turned. But even worse than that is if I had been a vampire and then was turned back human. Imagine getting used to healing, vampire strength. Oh my God, compelling people. To then have to go back to not being able to do that, I'm so sorry. I would be using compulsion left and right. Not in unethical ways, but just to make life more convenient and more fun for my friends. Anyway, I think that's it for now. Let's go back to regular Allie. Now, Elena's desire to take the cure felt very rushed to me, and obviously they probably just had a small warning of Nina leaving the show, so they had to be like, okay, quickly, like, let's all talk about in this one episode how much she wants to be human again. Next week she's taking it. It just made me think that they only had a couple of weeks notice for Nina leaving the show. It doesn't really make sense because obviously you sign on as a 6-year contract for any TV show. So they would have been negotiating that the whole year. Maybe they were just holding out hope that she would stay. But yeah, I think obviously we know Elena never wanted to be a vampire, but that entire episode before she takes it was spent being like, Elena has never wanted this. Elena's always wanted to be human, like as if it's something we've talked about the whole time. It just felt very forced. I think a great storyline would have been in the lead up to that when Damon is going to take the cure with Elena. Him forcing himself, or Elena saying, look, if you're serious about this, you need to go a whole week or a month without using a single power. Like no vamp hearing, no vamp speed, no compulsion, maybe even no drinking, because you will not be able to have that much bourbon once you are a human. And the cure storyline actually confused me a bit in general, because I thought a person had to be completely drained of their blood for the cure to work. I could have sworn that's how they set it up, but then later on it was like a little shot glass is all you need. Elena could take it and then Damon could just have a little sip from her blood and they'd both be cured forever. Did they undo some law that they laid out for us, or did I totally, did that go over my head? I was also just so surprised that in one single episode we lost Elena, Tyler, Jeremy, Liv, Kai, kind of, all at once. That is so many main characters to have leave the show at one time. Again, maybe I should have expected it because, like I said, you sign on for a 6-year contract, so presumably some will always leave then. But damn, yeah, I do think losing so many of our main characters that we knew and loved, or knew, did the show a disservice. Because for season 7, we're then left with we had to get attached to a lot of new people, which it is always hard. You'd think that if the very main character, the protagonist of the past 6 years, was leaving the show, they would make more of an effort to keep around either a Tyler or a Jeremy. Maybe Jeremy's storyline is done with his sister gone, and I was so chill watching that season 6 finale because I assumed, like any other death in the show, we would bring her back like an episode later, especially because it felt so inconsequential. I was like, what do you mean she's just having a sleep? Like, she's just gonna come back within the storyline. She's just gonna come back in like 80 years once we're gone. At the time, it felt like a bit of a cop-out because I was like, I think they should have just committed to killing her. But obviously, you want to see her come back for the finale, so this was maybe the only way that makes sense. But you could have equally killed her and then had her dead, the same way that like Tyler or Lexi were, and we still see them in the finale. I guess the whole thing was that she wanted to live happily ever after with Damon, so that wouldn't work. Oh, okay, another question for you guys. Did you want Damon and Bonnie to date? Because I'm pretty sure they dated in the books, right? I had seen like theories about that or something. Personally, I just really loved their platonic love. I don't think teen shows do enough of that. Like, I think Haley and Lucas are a great example of a male-female friendship that never crossed that line, and we need more of that. So I'm actually glad that they had this beautiful love and friendship, but I do wish their best friendship had stayed stronger after they got out of the prison world, because that bonding they did in there, and when Bonnie finally gets out, oh my god, I sobbed again. It's on my highlight reel, but like them reuniting to me was so powerful. And Damon obviously doesn't like everyone, and when he does love someone, it's a very deep protective love. So having that for Bonnie made me really happy. But the way that he was just so willing to give her up for Lily, and like obviously considered letting her die for a couple of seconds when they were overseas. But yeah, I just would have loved to have seen that friendship continue as strong after that. And then here we have this very long note. It's season 7 and I'm struggling. I've said, I'm realizing how much I liked and needed Elena in the storyline. We've been introduced to like 10 new people that I'm supposed to care about. They kind of tried with Valerie by giving us that young Stefan storyline. That just feels quite obvious that it was like made up on the spot. No part of me believes that you've known him this long. I'm sorry, like the writers just made you up. Also, like Lily, her allegiance flip-flopped more than Summer footwear. She was all over the shop. And like her hatred for her sons made no sense to me. Obviously, they maybe reminded her of Giuseppe or kept her tied to that life in some way, but you got some pretty good sons. I don't know why you hate them so much. Oh my god, also finding out that Elena's coma was her idea. Damon was the one to get you out of the prison world, and this is how you thank him. Oh, I also wrote, Enzo and Bonnie just met and loathe each other, but I can't figure out why. I know it's because they wanted to do like an enemies to lovers, thing during the time jump, but it would have hit a lot harder for me if we had a reason that they actually hated each other. Again, did I miss something? I just feel like they start out irritated by each other, loathing, if you will, but not really for any substantial reason. So the transition from enemies to lovers didn't hit as hard. I said, why did the heretics want to stay in Mystic Falls so bad anyway? They had all of the humans leave, so what is the point of being there? You could be anywhere in the world. You don't even have any humans to like compel. What is the point? I think my other problem was because they sent every human out of Mystic Falls because of a gas leak, it basically just became one big prison world. So nothing was really rooted in humanity or, think about the early seasons where they're like going to high school and like everything is normal except for this one little supernatural like storyline over here. By the end, it was the complete opposite. Everything was supernatural besides Matt, maybe, and like even he was dealing with supernatural stuff. So it's like my problem with the film The Eternals. It's like if you raise the stakes so high, we're not even in reality anymore, nothing really matters. Like obviously Elena's gone, Jeremy's gone, Tyler's gone, so now everyone we're interacting with is magic. It just made me think that if I had started the show in season 7, which is an empty town with no humans, just these kind of like evil witchy characters, who do I have to root for and why? I struggle with that season a little bit, so let me know if I'm alone in that or not. But oh my gosh, okay, this is a bit of a contentious topic, but I felt like Elena being in her big sleep undid a lot of the character development that Damon had and like his character growth, which means that Elena didn't really change him, right? Like it meant that he was kind of putting on a show to be a better person while she's around. I think maybe out of fear of losing her, but the fact that he becomes somewhat murderous or reckless after she's gone, or when she's not physically around him, let's say. It just seemed like he wasn't able to control himself as much, to the point where he was like, I need to desiccate, I need to go to sleep, because if I don't, I will hurt people. So that bummed me out, because I liked the idea of like, not that I think we can change for someone else, but you know, within the context of fictional characters, she made him a better person. So the fact that once she was away for a little bit, just having a little nap, that didn't really stick with him as much. Let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about the lesbians. Oh, I just love Nora so much. Not to spoil my character ranking, but the one issue I have with Nora and Mary Louise is that they have been together for 133 years or whatever, so there just isn't really any conflict. I think it's a lot more boring when we meet two people already as a couple, because it takes away all of the yearning, the slow burn, the will they, won't they. Think about how much better the first, 4 seasons of The Office are with Jim and Pam flirting, and then how boring it gets as soon as they're like together and married. I would have loved to have seen flashbacks of those two, you know, maybe having a forbidden love, and then now in today's reality, today's world, realizing we can actually be together. Like, it is safe now, we can be in love, out and proud. Also, like, as if you'd stay in a small town, it's probably so homophobic. Girls, go to New York, you'll love it. But yeah, like that, watching them figure that out would have been so much more interesting than just meeting them and their entire personality being, we're in love. Like, everyone's like, oh, the lovebirds. It's like, I think you're trying to overcorrect the fact that you have not given us a single good gay character, really. No offense to Caroline's dad and Luke. We never saw them date anyone, so it didn't really count. I think they were trying to course correct and be like, look, these people are gay and they're in love. When I think they deserved a better storyline, personally. But maybe I'm being too picky. You know, maybe any representation is good representation, but again, I just think they deserved a more interesting storyline. Oh, this note's funny. Caroline's babies made me realize that if I were a vampire and I was having babies, or I had babies, I would use compulsion, like, a lot. Like, if you're crying in the middle of the night, no, you're not. Like, I would just look into their eyes and say, hey, don't cry. Unless you're dying, please be quiet. Or I would at least say, you use this kind of cry if you're hungry. Use this kind of cry if you're gassy. Like, I would be utilizing compulsion so much to make my life easier. My favorite season 7 moment is Damon decapitating someone by throwing a Mystic Grill menu. Again, never saw it coming. So beautiful. Also, Damon calling Tyler Lockwolf. Just phenomenal. How did it take us 6 seasons to get to that pun? Oh my god, also Bonnie cutting off Enzo's hand. Again, I forget that they heal. Like, I think I probably thought his stump would heal over, but he grew a new hand, right? So like, that's fine. Also, the Hellstone exploding was kind of fun. I loved watching all the souls go around. It felt very like Scooby-Doo. The Siren storyline, it was okay. It was okay. The Devil was better. I look so busted. I'm just doing my skincare. But I am confused about something. In the cornfield maze, when Tyler is with the guy that was like pinned to the hood of his car that he's trying to save so that his werewolf curse isn't activated. Everyone's like, I don't know how we can find you in time. He's like, I don't know where I am.
Okay, I need you to get here. We're in a ditch. I don't know where, but I need you here now, so please hurry.
He just plowed through a field of corn. Would there not be a direct route? Like, all of that corn would be plowed? Is that the word? Could they not just follow where the corn has gone from this to this, and then he's gonna be at the end of that? Did anyone else think of this, or am I like really wrong? Obviously, Jo is Kai's sister, right? I'm so intrigued to learn about this family. At first, when the whole Gemini coven thing came up, I was like, whatever, don't care. Now, I very much care. I'm intrigued to learn why he murdered most of his young siblings. I feel like Kai is going to come with Bonnie out of the prison realm and be more of a main character. I don't know, I just feel like they're setting him up too much to just be stuck here. I also love Jo. I think her and Alaric are so cute. She's a great match for him. I really do not care at all about, I want to say Liam. Don't even really care enough to remember his name, because I know he won't last long for Elena, but I think it would have been more fun if she had a love interest besides the brothers that was like really good and we were really invested in them, just to spice it up and add like a bit of weight to it, because currently there is no reason we like wouldn't want her to get back with Damon. If anything, I don't know why she isn't compelling him. I get like not wanting your relationship to be built on a lie, but just this once, because it's kind of dangerous if people find out about vampires. So literally in the corn maze, just be like, hey, nothing happened. all good. Now we're up to my notes on the finale. So I wanted to put my reaction in here. I've tried uploading it and it gets copyrighted every time. So I will leave a link below where it is an unlisted video. So you can just go and watch my reaction to the last like couple minutes of the show. It's just me crying, but if you want to see. So obviously we knew we would see our girl Elena again, right? Like was there any doubt from anyone that she was going to be in the finale? I will say, I did not expect seeing Katherine again. At one point I thought, wouldn't it be funny if Elena died? But then we see Katherine in like the season 7 premiere and Katherine's just in the show. One thing that confused me when Elena woke up, Bonnie broke the spell, but like Kai was very specific when he said, I have made it so that there are no loopholes. If you try to break this spell, you and Elena will both die. Any attempt would kill them both. The writers like didn't even really give an explanation for how she did that. For Bonnie to just be like, I fixed the spell, felt like a bit of a cop-out or a bit of a cheat, unless I missed something. But again, I feel like she was just like, guys, I'm getting pretty good at this witch thing. We specifically knew if you tried to fix it, you would both die. So I just need an explanation there. Okay, also I hope this is not offensive. And I don't know why this is, but I found Damon and Elena's reunion, there we go. I found their reunion really underwhelming.
Hold on, I still want you.
Especially when you compare it to like the motel scene, the motel kiss. It had some really beautiful moments, and I don't know if it was the way it was written or shot, just did not do anything for me. Maybe it's because, to me, let me know if you guys feel differently about this, but if I had been asleep however long she was asleep and like, you know, thought we'd never see each other, etc., my reaction would have been run into a hug, not a kiss. Like a hug first and then a kiss. I actually think it was more impactful when Bonnie jumped into his arms after coming out of the prison world.
Oh, you made it.
Like that was a better reunion. I don't know why. I didn't like it. Another question I had, where was Emily Bennett when all of the witches and all of the Bennett ancestors are there helping Bonnie? We've got Sheila, which did make me cry. We've got this random one that Matt's ancestor was dating, and yet no Emily Bennett. Could they not afford Bianca Lawson? Was she busy that week? That scene did remind me a little bit of in Avengers Endgame when all the women like walking up and fighting together, but I don't care. Both scenes make me cry every time. It is fan servicey a little bit. It is pandering, but I eat that shit up. I loved meeting Matt's dad purely because it was the best TV casting I had seen since Glee, with Leah Michele and Adele Dazeem. Also, when Stefan is saying goodbye to Elena and he's kind of listing some things that he loved about Damon, one of the things he says, one of the things he brings up is that Damon was a Confederate soldier.
The older brother I looked up to. The son who enlisted in the Civil War.
Did that need to be mentioned? Another thing in the finale that confused me, obviously we're seeing everyone again. It was very beautiful. See the link below if you want to watch me cry. But putting Tyler with Vicky on the other side. The guy that tried to rape her. But besides that, great finale. Like I said, I cried the whole time. It was fan servicey, but to the exact degree that I needed it to be. You know, we tied our little things up. We saw our favorite people again. Honestly, seeing Lexi, I'm gonna cry. Seeing Lexi and Stefan reunite just made me mad again that we were robbed of more Lexi time because, oh my god, what wasted potential. Imagine what amazing friends Lexi and Caroline could have been. Now I'm mad. Now, obviously, I have not seen the originals or legacies yet. Let me know if either of them are worth watching, and more importantly, if you think I would like them. I just really need a new show, and by that I mean nothing created in the last decade. Finally, I have a little short list of plot lines that gagged me the most, and my threshold for this is like Pretty Little Liars spoiler, when we are in A's lair and Ezra turned around. Like, oh my god, what I would give to watch that live again for the first time. So for me, it was Katherine's arrival, dressed as Elena. Oh my god. We should have known from the hair volume. That whole scene, what an entrance. Elena forcing Katherine to take the cure. When Elena slays, she slays. We can't argue that. She had some very iconic moments. But conversely, on the other hand, Katherine traveling into Elena. Once again, I did not see it coming until it was too late. Obviously, Elena dying. That was something that was not spoiled for me, and I'm so grateful because a show killing off their protagonist, unheard of. I almost want to ask if any other shows have done that, but I guess it would spoil them. Let me know. Oh, and I guess Damon killing both Jeremy and Tyler. Both times I was surprised. My favorite line of the entire TV show is this.
I was about to take my shirt off.
Relax.
I'm gay and your brother.
Also, my other favourite choice was when they had Ian Somerhalder play young Damon, yet hired a child to be young Stefan. Just the contrast of that.
It's an important speech.
I will finish it, Stefan.
Father said we're not to cry.
That is because Father is incapable of human emotion. You are 10.
I could not take anything in that entire scene or episode seriously. It was so funny. Like, I think you have to do both or neither. You can't do one or the other. Things I didn't like, the fact that every single time someone gave blood for a spell, these writers and directors think we need to show Ali the knife going through the hand and the blood coming out. I felt that every time. You could just play a sound. Or you could go like this, you know, from the back so I can't see it. I didn't need to see it every time. You know how some people prefer closed door romance books? I need closed door violence. Don't show me that. This might be obvious, but the lack of diversity in this show astounded me because it was made a little bit later than some of the early 2000s shows. I expected so much more. We had one main character who wasn't white, who spent a lot of the time either dead or alone or trying to kill herself. At one point, maybe even 2 points, she just like wasn't there and then came back and was like, hey, I'm back from holiday. Like they really gave her the Miranda in the Lizzie McGuire movie treatment.
You should really talk to Miranda about this stuff.
But she's in Mexico City.
At that point, anytime they introduced a person of color into a storyline, I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna last 2 episodes max. These writers are gonna kill you off. And sure enough, yeah, like I said, we had the 2 gay male characters, you know, like Dumbledore, we never saw them actually being gay, so who knows. But then our 2 female queer characters, as television loves to do, were killed off. I would like to think that if the show were made today, all of those things would be better. And that makes me think that both the originals and legacies must do diversity better. Even again, if only to course correct how bad it was in this show. I just trust that they like wouldn't be as bad again, but who knows? My final note is the thing that irritated me the most this entire show and made some scenes hard to watch, and that is the fact that they reused the Skull Bar set for the armory and like expected me not to notice. It's like if Central Perk suddenly became like Ross's workplace. You're expecting me to believe in this fictional world. You can't just use one set as a different place. Yeah, it just took me out of the scene every single time. So those last couple of seasons were hard for me given the amount of time we spent there. That was worse than the diversity thing. Julie Plec, you will pay for your sins. If you've made it this far, I would love to hear your thoughts on the show or any of the questions I've asked. And again, give this a like to let me know if you want a character ranking, because I think from what I've seen now, my opinion is not the same as most people. And I wonder if watching that later in life makes a difference. Anyway, let me know where you guys stand. Are you Team Damon? Are you Team Stefan? What else is there to ask, really? Did you like my Elena cosplay, especially my necklace? This also really does open. I can and should put some vervain in there. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and just supporting my journey. I know a lot of you are probably the people that were replying to my Instagram stories as I was watching the show. I apologize it's taken me this long to make this. I really didn't want the show to end, so I drew it out as long as possible, which I'm sure you understand. Now, basically, my life has no meaning or purpose, so I'm gonna do the one thing that anyone could expect, which is, of course, to rewatch Pretty Little Liars. All roads lead to Rosewood. Well, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Is this what it feels like to grow up?